Pack your bags and get out. The nurse yelled, her voice filled with rage. That's it. We're getting a divorce. Her mother-in-law smirked. Marina grabbed the mop, ready to stand her ground. In the background, Marina's friend, Maria, turned off the range hood and listened. It was quiet on the landing, with only the distant yelping of a neighbor's dog echoing from an upper floor. The chicken in the skillet was already browned, and the potatoes in the oven were a perfect golden hue. She glanced at the microwave clock, 6:30 p.m. They would be home soon. Wiping her hands on a waffle towel, a birthday gift from her mother-in-law, Marina took one last look at the kitchen. Everything was in its place. The salt and pepper shakers perfectly centered on the table. The curtains were straightened, and the violets on the windowsill were watered just enough to dampen the soil. Her mother-in-law, Rebecca, couldn't stand it when the water dripped. In the living room, a home renovation talk show was playing on the TV at a low volume. Marina plumped the pillows on the sofa and picked up yesterday's newspaper from the coffee table. The children had left for her mother's on Monday to spend their summer vacation. Grandma lived in upstate New York with a lake house and a small river. They were happy there, playing freely. A key rattled in the lock. Marina froze for a second, then walked slowly into the hallway. The first to enter was Sergei, tired and disheveled, a briefcase in his hand, which he placed on the floor out of habit, not on its side. Behind him was Rebecca, with her usual oversized tote bag slung over her shoulder. Good evening, Marina said quietly. Sergei mumbled something unintelligible as he took off his shoes. Rebecca gave her daughter-in-law a once-over, from her house slippers to her neatly pinned-up hair. You look a little pale today, Rebecca remarked as she walked into the kitchen. Are you sick? No? Everything's fine. I haven't cleaned the chandelier in a while. Her mother-in-law was already standing in the middle of the kitchen. Hitzelbeck. I can see the dust. Marina silently took the plates out of the drying rack. Sergei walked past her without a second glance, heading straight to the bathroom to wash his hands. A typical evening in the Kuznetsov family. The dinner table was quiet, the only sounds being the clatter of silverware on plates and the low hum of the TV from the living room. Rebecca meticulously picked through her salad, removing the tomatoes. She didn't like them, but Marina always included them because Sergei wouldn't eat salad without them. Not enough salt, her mother-in-law commented without even tasting it. Marina reached for the salt shaker, but Sergei beat her to it, pushing it toward his mother. Their fingers brushed for a second, and Marina pulled her hand back as if burned. Maria called today, Sergei said suddenly, not looking up from his plate. Marina tensed. Maria was her only friend with whom she could be truly open. Yesterday, they had chatted for nearly an hour, and Marina thought no one was home. So what? She asked, trying to sound indifferent. Nothing. She just said you were busy. Rebecca let out a small chuckle. Marina looked at her, then at her husband. They both wore the same knowing expression, like people who shared a secret. A wave of unease washed over her. Marina put down her fork. I'm full. I'll go do the dishes. Sit down, Sergei said, his voice sharp. We need to talk. And in that moment, Marina realized what she had both feared and secretly hoped for all these years had finally arrived. The storm that had been brewing under the roof of their two-bedroom condo was finally ready to break. We overheard your conversation yesterday, Sergei said, looking past his wife at the wall behind her. With Maria. Marina was silent, her throat tight, but she stubbornly swallowed. We overheard it by accident, Rebecca interjected, with poorly concealed triumph in her voice. I went into the kitchen to get some milk, and you were on the balcony. The door was open. By accident, Marina thought. Her mother-in-law had a knack for accidentally being present during important conversations, accidentally finding receipts in pockets, and accidentally seeing messages on her phone. So what? Marina looked up at her husband. What did I say? Sergei finally looked at her, his eyes filled with resentment, mixed with righteous maternal anger. That you're unhappy here. That my mother gets on your nerves. That you're tired of this life. I told the truth. Silence fell over the room. Even the TV seemed to have gone quiet. So it was true, Rebecca said, getting up from the table. I got on your nerves. I? Who helped with the kids? Who brought Sergey up in society? Who created this home for you? Mom. Please. Sergey tried to intervene. No. Let her say it. Her mother-in-law's face was flushed. Let her say she's not happy. She's not happy with the apartment. Not happy with her husband. Or am I the only one to blame for her unhappiness? Marina slowly stood up. Something inside her snapped. Like a stretched string finally breaking. Yes. I am not happy. Marina. Sergey also stood up. I don't like being treated like a servant. Having my every move criticized. Not being able to complain to my friend without being overheard. If you feel so bad, Sergey said quietly. A threatening tone in his voice. Maybe you should leave the apartment, he spat out the next words. And anyway, I'm filing for divorce. You don't respect us. Which means you have no place in this family. And in that moment, something inside Marina finally broke. Not with a crash, but silently. Like ice melting under the spring sun. She looked at her husband. At her mother-in-law. At this kitchen where she had spent 8 years of her life. Get out, she said quietly. But with such force that Rebecca gasped. What, get out of my house? Both of you. This isn't your house. Her mother-in-law shrieked. This is our apartment. It's Sergey's apartment. Which is joint property. Marina corrected. And the children are registered here with me. She spoke with a surprising calmness. As if these words had been waiting for the right moment to be said. Are you crazy? Sergey took a step toward her. Marina. Stop being hysterical. I'm not hysterical. I'm just tired. For 8 years. I kept quiet. Endured. And pretended everything was fine. I washed your shirts. Cooked your dinners. And listened to your complaints. Enough, how dare you? Rebecca walked toward her. Raising her hand to strike. Marina didn't back down. She simply extended her hand and picked up the mop, leaning against the refrigerator, not to hit, but to set a boundary. She held it in front of her like a medieval guard with a halberd. Her mother-in-law froze. Her hand still raised. Sergey's face went pale. Marina. Put it down. Don't be ridiculous. Both of you. Get out. Now. Her voice was so calm, it was frightening. This wasn't the hysteria of a cornered woman, it was the cold, decisive resolve of a person who could no longer endure. Sergey? Call the police. Rebecca said, grabbing her son's hand. She's gone mad, call them. Marina nodded. Tell them how the two of you are poisoning the mother of 2 children. How you eavesdrop. How you threatened to throw her out of the house. Sergey opened and then closed his mouth. He wasn't a bad person. Just weak. And that weakness was now written all over his face. Mom. Let's just go. He said. Pulling Rebecca toward the door. No. I'm not going anywhere. This is my home. I live here. Get out. Marina didn't scream. She barked. Like a cornered dog that would no longer tolerate being kicked. There was so much power in her voice. So much pent-up rage. That even Rebecca recoiled. Marina walked past them and opened the front door. Leave the keys. 2. Marina. Let's talk. Sergey pleaded one last time. We've been talking for 8 years. Enough. They left. Rebecca hissed something about ingratitude and how Marina would regret it. Sergey was silent. Just looking back at the threshold. Confused. Like a boy who had his favorite toy taken away. Marina shut the door softly. Locked it. Leaned her back against it. And closed her eyes. In the kitchen. The dinner was getting cold. Her chest felt both empty and light. Like the air after a thunderstorm. Marina peeled herself from the door. Went into the kitchen. Mechanically cleared the plates from the table. And put on the kettle. She sat by the window with that same mug with the inscription Saratoga Springs. 2013. They had gone there together before their youngest was born. The last time they had been truly happy. Outside. The lights were coming on in the neighboring apartments. An ordinary summer evening in a quiet residential area. Only in one condo, on the 8th floor of a 9-story building, had an 8-year war just ended. Marina took a sip of her tea and dialed Maria's number. Hello. Marina. Did something happen? Would you like some tea when you get here? What happened? For the first time in a long time. Marina smiled sincerely. I kicked them both out. There was a long silence on the other end. Then Maria exhaled. Well? Finally, I'm on my way. Marina hung up and looked out the window again. Down in the courtyard. Sergei was getting into his Ford. Rebecca was talking loudly. Waving her arms. The car started and drove off. Probably to Rebecca's one-bedroom apartment in a Queensboro. Let them live together. Marina thought. Let them live together. Mother and son. The apartment was quiet. For the first time in 8 years. It was truly quiet. There was no need to listen for footsteps outside the door. Wait for comments. Or prepare for an inspection. She could just sit by the window with her tea and be with herself. The phone vibrated with a text from Sergei. Marina didn't even open it. Then another. And another. She turned off the sound and placed the phone face down. Today was her little holiday, a holiday of silence and no one. Not her husband. Her mother-in-law. Or her conscience. Would ruin it. It all started so routinely. Marina, having been laid off from her job at a toy factory, attended an accounting course at a local job center. Sergei was in the next row. Looking neat in a diamond-patterned sweater. During breaks, he'd offer her coffee from his thermos and walk her to the bus stop. I live not far from here. He'd say, if anything happens, I can give you a ride. At the time, Marina was renting a room in a shared apartment in Boston. After her divorce from her first husband, she was left with a 3-year-old, Mia, and the debt from a loan her ex-husband had taken out in her name. Sergei seemed reliable. He didn't drink and worked in an office in a suburban business park. He immediately said he loved children. 6 months later, he proposed. It was simple. Without fanfare. They were sitting at a coffee shop near a subway station. He suddenly took her hand. Marina, let's get married. I have a 2-bedroom condo. And my mother already likes you. At the time, this last phrase didn't bother her. On the contrary, it seemed like a good sign. He was a family man who respected his parents. They had a modest wedding and a small reception with close friends and family. Rebecca gave them a tea set and spent a long time explaining how to care for it properly. Marina listened and nodded. Wanting to please her. The first year was good. Sergei was calm. Didn't drink. And brought home money. Rebecca came over a couple of times a week to help with Mia and bring groceries from the farmer's market. Marina worked as a bookkeeper at a local clinic. Cooked dinner in the evenings. And on weekends. They would go to her mother-in-law's lake house. And then, their son, Daniel, was born. And everything changed. You're swaddling him incorrectly, Rebecca would say. Now coming over every day. You have to do it like this. Why is he crying? You're not feeding him enough. What kind of cereal is this? Semolina is bad. You need to use oatmeal. Sergei supported his mother in everything. Mom knows best. She raised me. Marina tried to object peacefully and carefully. Not wanting any arguments. After all, it was for the children's sake. Mia had grown attached to Sergei and called him Dad. Daniel was growing. They needed to think about daycare and school. And here they had a condo and at least some stability. Then came the nagging about the household. They didn't cook or clean or raise the children correctly. Rebecca got a spare set of keys just in case and would show up whenever she felt like it. She could come in the morning while Marina was getting the children ready and start rearranging food in the fridge. She could show up in the evening and conduct an inspection. Checking for dust on the cabinets. Stains on the tiles. Or misplaced toys. I just want to help, she would say. Feigning offense. If Marina tried to object. You're ungrateful. Another woman would be happy to have such a caring mother-in-law. Sergei would either stay quiet or change the subject. And eventually, he'd take his mother's side. She's not being mean. She's just worried about us. About you. Marina thought. But she said nothing. She kept quiet when her mother-in-law reprimanded her in front of the children. She kept quiet when she interfered in her and Sergei's relationship. Why isn't there intimacy? Why aren't you having a third child? She kept quiet and did everything. Washing, cooking, cleaning, and working. At some point, it became the norm. Breakfast for 3 every morning because Rebecca came over to drink tea. Calls during the day with questions about what to buy or what to cook. Dinner in the evening, under her mother-in-law's supervision, and with her constant critiques. Weekends were mandatory trips to the lake house or family shopping trips. Marina felt like she was living someone else's life. She wore what Rebecca approved of, bright colors don't suit you, and cooked what Sergei liked. Why do you make these salads? Make normal food. Even her interactions with her children were supervised. Don't spoil them, they'll grow up to be maladjusted. And then it became the new normal. And Marina seemed to have resigned herself to it. But she didn't forget. Half an hour later, the doorbell rang briefly. Twice. Marina recognized the pattern. Maria opened the door and was standing there in a down jacket over her pajamas. With the face of a true friend. Ready to offer comfort and vengeance. So, where are we hiding the bodies? She asked instead of a greeting. Marina grinned and silently gestured toward the kitchen. Maria took off her down jacket as she walked by. Tell me. How did it go? I just kicked them out. And they left. Just like that. What else could they do? Maria whistled and flopped into a chair. I thought there would be a huge scene. Cops. Paramedics. Neighbors with their phones out. Everything was fine. Marina put the kettle on and took out some cookies. The same oatmeal ones that Rebecca called dog biscuits. Listen. Maria's face suddenly became serious. Are you sure they won't come back, I mean? With their things. Saying it's their house. Let them try. There was so much confidence in Marina's voice that Maria just shook her head. My God. Marina. I've been waiting 8 years for you to finally kick them out. I thought it would never happen. They drank tea. And Maria told her the latest gossip from work. Marina listened half-heartedly. Simply enjoying the fact that she could sit in her own kitchen with her friend, without fear of her mother-in-law showing up for another inspection. Then, they walked around the condo together. Collecting Rebecca's things. It turned out she had quite a few things there, slippers with pom-poms. 3 sweaters. A set of pots she had brought, because even your pots are wrong. And a MyPillow she claimed was orthopedically incorrect. Did she spend the night here? Maria asked in surprise. Only when Sergei was on a business trip. To help me with the kids. Help my ass. Maria muttered. There was a knock on the door. Sergei and Rebecca had come to collect their things. He silently packed shirts from the closet. A razor from the bathroom. And a folder of documents. He moved mechanically. Like a robot. Marina didn't interfere. She only watched to make sure he didn't take anything extra. Rebecca tried to mumble something about ingratitude, and how Marina would regret it. But her words lacked the usual force. It seemed Marina's calm determination had confused her more than any hysteria could have. Here's your coat, Marina said, handing her mother-in-law her outerwear. And don't forget your umbrella. You might get caught in the rain. You'll dance yet? Rebecca squeezed out. Perhaps. But not to your tune. They left quietly. Without slamming the doors. Sergei turned around on the threshold. Opened his mouth to say something. But Marina was already closing the door. The lock clicked. Silence. Marina leaned her back against the door and closed her eyes. The condo was quiet, truly quiet. No one was shuffling slippers down the hallway. No one was rattling pots in the kitchen. And no one was blasting the TV at full volume. Maria hugged her shoulders. That's it. Now you can finally live. Yes. Now I will live. Morning came unnoticed. Marina woke up without an alarm. Without anxiety. And without the usual tension in her chest. She lay in bed and listened to the silence, a real, liberating silence. Not an oppressive one. She got up and made coffee. Not the tea Sergei liked, but strong coffee with cinnamon. She sat down at her laptop and went to the land registry website. She needed to make sure all the documents were in order. She remembered that the condo was registered as joint property. But she checked anyway. The details were correct. Furthermore, the children were registered with her, which gave her additional legal protection. According to the law, it's almost impossible to evict a mother with minor children. Next, she went to the legal services website to research the procedure for filing for divorce, dividing property, and alimony. She read carefully, making notes in a notebook. It wasn't that she was going to file for divorce right now, but it was better to be prepared. She called her mother in Kansas. Mom, how are the kids? They're fine. Honey, Mia and your dad went fishing. And Daniel is in the yard with the boys. What happened? Your voice sounds strange. Everything's fine. Mom, Sergey and I just had a fight. He's staying with his mother for now. A silence hung in the air. It was about time. Her mother finally said, I've been watching you and wondering how long my girl would put up with it. Mom, don't say anything. Just know that you can always come to us if you need to. There's enough room. Marina hung up and smiled. It was good to know she had a place to go back to. But she wasn't going to leave. This was her home. Her life. And she would fight for it. The day was spent cleaning. But not the usual kind where every move was scrutinized. Marina sorted through things, threw out junk, and rearranged furniture. She took her mother-in-law's chest of drawers out of the bedroom old, bulky, and with drawers that always jammed. By evening, the condo felt transformed. Not just externally, but internally. It had become a home. Not a military barrack under constant inspection. At 4 a.m., her phone rang. Marina glanced at the screen. Sergey. She didn't answer. A minute later, it rang again. And again. On the 5th time, she finally answered. Hello. Marina. Please forgive me. I don't understand what you want from me. I didn't yell. I simply suggested you leave your own home. Silence. She could hear him breathing heavily. I didn't want it to be like this. And how did you want it? Sergey. For me to continue playing the silent role I endured and pretended everything was fine. I just didn't want Mom to be upset. That's the main thing. Isn't it, Mom? Always, Mom. And what about me? Marina asked. Was I ever a factor in your calculations? I thought you were stronger. You know what, I really am stronger. Much stronger than you ever thought. That's why I had the strength to kick you out. Marina. That's enough. He said. Good night. Sergey. She hung up. The phone immediately vibrated with a new message. She didn't read it. She turned off the sound, placed the phone face down, and fell back to sleep. The next evening, the doorbell rang long and persistent. Marina looked through the peephole. Sergey. Alone. Rumpled. Unshaven. And with red eyes. She opened the door, but left the security chain on. What do you want? We need to talk. Talk? Well? Let me in. I won't make a scene. Just to talk. She took off the chain. He walked past her, stopping in the hallway, not even taking off his shoes. He was apparently afraid this would be seen as an attempt to stay. Well, Marina crossed her arms over her chest. I don't know what to say. Mom is crying. She says you insulted her and kicked her out. I kicked both of you out. And I didn't insult her. I just told the truth. But she's my mother. And I'm your husband. Or does that mean nothing to you? Sergey lowered his head, looking pathetic. He was a 40-year-old man who had never been able to become an adult. What do you want? I want to come home. This is my home. And my children's. And my rules will be here. What rules? Marina spoke clearly. Point by point. No daily visits from your mother. No interference in our household. No eavesdropping. No inspections. No instructions. If Rebecca wants to see her grandchildren, it's once a week on a weekend. And only with my prior agreement. Sergey listened, grimacing as if he had a toothache. She'll never agree to that. Those are her problems. Marina. You can't do this. I can. And I will. I lived by your rules for 8 years. Enough. I need to think about it. Think. Just not here. He left without taking off his shoes. Marina closed the door, went to the kitchen, took out a piece of paper and a pen, and started writing a shopping list. Apple juice. Not the tomato juice Sergei liked. Gorgonzola cheese, which Rebecca called rotten. The same oatmeal cookies. Little things. But her life was made up of them. A week passed. Then 2. Sergei didn't show up again. Only sending pitiful and then angry texts. Marina didn't answer. The children returned tanned, noisy, and full of stories. They brought back crafts made of pine cones, photos from fishing, and a jar of jam from Grandma. Mom. Where's Dad? Daniel asked at dinner. Dad's living somewhere else for now. He has some things to work out. When will he be back? I don't know. Honey. Maybe soon. Mia. At 12. Watched attentively. Like a grown-up. She understood a lot. Mom. Is Grandma Rebecca not coming anymore? She will. But not every day. Okay. Her daughter said. Unexpectedly. Because she's always yelling. Marina looked at her daughter. She was calmly eating her pasta as if she hadn't said anything out of the ordinary. Did it bother you? Well? Yeah. She said you were doing everything wrong and raising us wrong, and that cartoons were bad. Daniel nodded. And she made me eat that disgusting oatmeal. Children see everything. Understand everything. And remain silent. Because the adults are silent. He won't force you to eat it anymore. Marina promised. That's right. That's right. A month later. A text came from Sergei. It was short. I rented an apartment. Can I see the children? Marina replied. You can on weekends. They didn't officially divorce. They just separated. He could get his life in order. But not by living with her. The first time he came to get the children. He was nervous and twitchy. The children were happy to see him. But they were reserved. They went to the movies and a cafe. Returning happy but tired. Dad kept asking about you. Mia said. What you're cooking, who you're hanging out with, and what did you say? That everything's fine with us. That's my smart girl. Marina started a renovation. A small cosmetic one. But she did it her way. She changed the wallpaper in the bedroom. Choosing a light one with a barely noticeable pattern. Rebecca had called them hospital walls. But Marina liked them. They made the space feel more open. She bought new curtains and changed the kitchen light fixture. The very one her mother-in-law had always picked on. In the bedroom. Where the chest of drawers used to be. She put an armchair and a floor lamp. Now, in the evenings. She could sit and read a book. Drink tea. And not have to report to anyone. Work. Children. Home. The ordinary life of an ordinary woman. But now. It was without oppression. Without constant tension. And without the feeling that she was living someone else's life. Sergei never came back. Maybe he will. But on different terms. Or maybe not. Marina wasn't making any plans. Her life had become simpler. But more importantly, it had become hers. And that was everything. Story 2. Maria Sergeyevna Kuznetsova stood by the window of the school office and looked at the autumn courtyard where the children were playing football. 30 years old. Primary school teacher. Married for 4 years. It would seem that life was settled. But in recent months, something had changed in their home. Dennis began to come home late. Constantly talking on the phone. Turning away from her. And when she asked about work, he answered in monosyllables. The ringing of her mobile phone interrupted her thoughts. Unknown number. Hello. Maria Sergeyevna. The unfamiliar female voice sounded excited. You don't know me. But I need to meet you. It concerns your husband. Her heart sank. Masha squeezed the receiver tighter. Who is this? What are you talking about? My name is Olga. I have been dating Dennis for 6 months. Forgive me. But you need to know the truth. The world has rocked. Masha sat down on a chair. Feeling her hands growing cold. Let's meet today at the Moskovsko Cafe at 6:00 p.m. I'll explain everything there. The receiver went silent. Masha sat. Looking at the phone screen. 4 years of marriage. A shared apartment. plans for children. Everything was collapsing from one call. In the evening, a skinny brunette in her 20s was waiting for her in the cafe. Olga looked confused and guilty. I didn't know he was married, she began. As soon as Masha sat down at the table, he said he was divorced. And yesterday, I accidentally saw your joint photos on his phone. I understand how much it hurts you. But I can't keep quiet any longer. She took out her phone and showed the correspondence with Dennis. Masha's heart ached with pain. Tender messages. Plans for a weekend together. Even a discussion of renting an apartment for the two of them. He said that he would soon have his own apartment. That he would solve some problems with his ex-wife. Olga continued. Maria Sergeyevna. I am very ashamed. I will immediately end our relationship with him. Masha listened silently, feeling everything inside her turn over. Not only the betrayal, but also the plans to take over the apartment. And the apartment they bought together. Although the main amount was her inheritance from her grandmother. Plus her salary for 3 years before the wedding. Thank you for telling me, Masha said quietly. It was right. Dennis had not yet returned home. Masha sat down at the computer and began to study what was needed for a divorce. The documents for the apartment were in the safe in the bedroom. She took out a folder and began to read carefully. The apartment was registered in the name of 2 people. As jointly acquired property. Although her down payment was significantly higher, the keys in the lock began to creak at 11:30. Dennis came in, drinking something under his breath. Apparently, he was in a great mood. Masha, are you awake? He was surprised to see his wife at the table with documents. We need to talk, she said calmly, raising her eyes. Something in her tone made him wary. Dennis slowly took off his jacket. About what? About your relationship with Olby. About your plans for the apartment. About the fact that our marriage is over. The husband's face changed. First surprise. Then confusion. Then anger. How do you know? Did that fool blab? It doesn't matter where she got it from. What matters is that I'm filing for divorce and demanding my share of the apartment in accordance with the funds invested. Dennis straightened up abruptly. What share? The apartment was bought during the marriage. So it's split in half. But in general, he fell silent. As if he wanted to say something but changed his mind. In general. What nothing? Let's see what the court says. The next day, Masha contacted a lawyer. The elderly woman carefully studied the documents. Everything was registered as jointly acquired property. Although your investments were greater, you will need to prove through bank statements where the money came from. But, in principle, the case is winnable. How long would it take? 3 or 4 months minimum. Maybe they would offer a settlement. But Dennis would not agree to a settlement. Moreover, a week later, Masha discovered that he had moved out. Taking almost all of his things. Only the documents remained, which they had not managed to divide. Life at school went on as usual. Masha tried not to show her condition. But her colleagues still noticed that she had become more withdrawn. The school principal Valentina Ivanovna asked several times if everything was okay. I understand that family problems are hard, she said. But it shouldn't affect work. We're about to have an inspection from the education department. The inspection was really going to be serious. Inspectors were supposed to come to the school to assess the results of the repairs and the quality of school meals. A considerable budget, almost 2 million rubles, was allocated for these purposes at the beginning of the year. But when Masha passed by the principal's office, she involuntarily overheard a conversation between Valentina Ivanovna and the head teacher Tamara Semyonovna. Are the documents ready? The principal asked. All the receipts for the repairs are there, as is the contract with the contractor. But the actual work done was worth 300,000 at most. The head teacher answered. And no more is needed. The rest of the money will go towards developing the school in other areas. Valentina Ivanovna. What if the inspectors notice a discrepancy? They won't notice. All the documents are in order. The contractor is our man. And what are we going to spend the rest of our business on? Masha froze at the door. What she heard was outright theft of budget money. The money allocated for the children went into the pockets of the director and her cronies. The first court hearing on the divorce was scheduled for the end of October. Masha came to court with a folder of documents and certificates, confirming her financial investment in the apartment. Dennis sat at the other end of the room with his lawyer. But the most unpleasant surprise was the appearance of his mother-in-law, Lyudmila Petrovna. An elegant woman in her 50 seconden. Had always treated Masha coolly, believing that her son could have found a better match. Now she sat next to Dennis and looked at her daughter-in-law with poorly concealed hostility. When the judge began hearing the case, Dennis's lawyer stood up and said, "Your Honor, there are circumstances that significantly affect the division of property. The apartment in question actually belongs to my client's mother, Lyudmila Petrovna Kuznetsova. Here are the documents." He handed the judge a folder. Masha felt the ground slipping from under her feet. "What does this mean?" she asked her lawyer. She quickly looked through copies of the documents. It says here that the apartment was re-registered to the mother-in-law as a gift from her son 3 months ago. But how is that possible? Lyudmila Petrovna stood up. Addressing the judge, said, "Your Honor, my son gave me this apartment because he knew the marriage had not worked out. All documents are properly executed through a notary. Maria Sergeyevna has nothing to do with this property. It's impossible." Masha screamed. "How could he give the apartment away without my consent?" The judge carefully studied the documents. According to the presented papers, Denis Kuznetsov did indeed re-register the apartment to his mother. There is a notary certification. But the legality of this transaction needs to be checked. Since the apartment is jointly acquired property, the hearing is postponed for 2 weeks for additional examination of the documents. The judge announced. When everyone was leaving the courtroom, Lyudmila Petrovna approached Masha. "Darling, you shouldn't have ruined your relationship with your family. Denise, of course, is not an Andel. But is that a reason to destroy a marriage? And now you are left with nothing." "We'll see." Masha answered firmly. "You have already lost." The mother-in-law grinned. "I have rewritten the apartment in my name. And you will not get anything." There were many people in the court corridor. Other cases were being heard nearby. The lawyers of the court were crowded near the offices. Masha was standing by the window, trying to come to her senses after what she had heard, when an unfamiliar man approached her. About 30 years old. "Excuse me. I couldn't help but overhear your conversation with the woman," he said. "I'm lawyer Mikhail Volkov. I'm handling the case in the next room. What she said about re-registering the apartment is suspicious. Such transactions are often fictitious." Masha looked at him carefully. Tall, dark-haired, with intelligent brown eyes behind glasses. "Do you think there's a chance to challenge it? We need to look at the documents. If the re-registration was done with the purpose of concealing the property from division, it's illegal. Do you have proof of your investment in the apartment?" "Yes. Bank statements of the contract." "Then the case is not hopeless. We can meet tomorrow. I'll study the materials in more detail." They exchanged phone numbers. For the first time in weeks, Masha felt a glimmer of hope. The next day, at the law office, Mikhail carefully studied all of Masha's documents. "There's clearly something wrong here," he said, examining the deed of gift through a magnifying glass. "Your husband's signature looks strange. And the date. Look. The number 3 is written over another number. That is, the date is forged. It looks like it. A handwriting examination is needed. In the meantime, I will request from the bank data on the movement of funds in the accounts of your husband and mother-in-law for the last 6 months." It was easy and pleasant to work with Mikhail. He explained all the legal subtleties in simple language. Did not pretend that the case was simple, but did not intimidate with difficulties. In addition, unlike the first lawyer, he took on the case with enthusiasm. At school, meanwhile, the situation had stopped. Everything was tense. The inspection was approaching, and Masha involuntarily became a witness to several more suspicious conversations. Call Tamara Semyonovna frankly spoke to the cleaning lady Maria Stepanovna. "If the inspectors ask anything about the renovation in the gym, say that everything was done in the summer. You were on vacation. You don't know anything." And the director Valentina Ivanovna ordered to urgently paint the walls in the corridor and replace several broken windows, apparently to create the impression of a fresh renovation. Masha understood that she had to report the fraud to the education department. But she was afraid of losing her job. The principal had connections, and it was difficult for teachers without patronage to find a new job. One evening, when she was late at school checking notebooks, one of her students came into the office. Maxim Petrov. A boy from a dysfunctional family, but very smart. Maria Sergeyevna. Can I ask you a question? He asked. Of course. Maxim. Why is the porridge in our cafeteria so bad again? Mom says that the state gives money for good food, and we eat some kind of slop. Masha felt uneasy. The children noticed everything. Maxim. What exactly don't you like about the food? Yes. Everything. The porridge is like paste. The meat is tough. The vegetables are strange. And it used to be better. It used to be before the director started saving on food, redirecting money to her own needs. I'll definitely talk to the canteen management. Masha promised. But talking to the management was useless. Everything was going according to the director's instructions. At home, Masha increasingly thought about what was happening around her. Her husband had betrayed her. Her mother-in-law was trying to take away her apartment. At work, she was stealing money allocated for the children. Was everyone around her dishonest? Mikhail called every few days, reporting on the progress of preparations for the trial. The examination confirmed that the signature on the deed of gift had been forged, and the date had been changed. Bank documents showed strange transfers between Denise's and his mother's accounts, just as the gift was being processed. Things are taking a good turn, he said during another meeting. We have all the evidence of the deal's effectiveness. Mikhail. Why are you helping me like this? Masha asked. But this isn't your case. You have your own business. He was a little embarrassed. Frankly, I don't like it when people are deceived. And you are being deceived very brazenly. Besides, I enjoy working with you. There was clearly sympathy between them. But Masha was not yet ready for a new relationship. The wounds from her husband's betrayal were too fresh. The situation worsened at school. The inspection was supposed to start in a week. And Principal Valentina Ivanovna became especially nervous. She called several teachers, including Masha, for a preventive talk. Dear colleagues, she began. We will soon be visited by the education department. I ask everyone to be extremely polite in their answers. Our school is working perfectly. All funds are spent as intended. The repairs were carried out efficiently. We have no complaints and cannot have any. She looked at everyone sternly. I especially ask you not to spread any small imperfections or shortcomings. There may be small rough spots in any work, but the overall result is excellent. After the meeting, the colleagues left in silence. Everyone understood what it was about, but they were afraid to say it out loud. And 2 days later, something happened that Masha had not expected at all. On Wednesday morning, Masha came to school and discovered that her office was flooded. Water was dripping from the ceiling, ruining notebooks, books, and even a computer. There were puddles on the floor, and plaster was falling in chunks from above. Maria Sergeyevna. What happened? The cleaning lady Maria Stepanovna ran up. How should I know? Everything was fine yesterday. The head teacher Tamara Semyonovna came up to them. She shook her head. What a horror. Apparently, a pipe burst on the upper floor. We'll call a plumber now. But when the plumber came, he said something strange. The pipes are intact. It looks like someone deliberately poured water through the ventilation hole. They forgot the ventilation hose over there. Tamara Semyonovna quickly interrupted him. What are you saying? There must have been a small leak somewhere. And now it has stopped. It happens. The plumber shrugged and left. And Masha thought about flooding her office on purpose. But why? The answer came an hour later. The director called her to her office. Maria Sergeyevna. I am very sorry about the incident, Valentina Ivanovna said with feigned sympathy. But, unfortunately, the office will have to be repaired. And this takes time. Therefore, it would be better for you to take sick leave during the inspection. I would not like the commission to see the school in such an unsightly state. But I do not have sick leave. I am healthy. Maria Sergeyevna. You understand that stress from divorce affects health. The doctor will write a certificate. And we will temporarily ask Lyudmila Anatolievna to replace you in the class. Lyudmila Anatolyevna was a teacher of retirement age who supported the director in everything and never asked unnecessary questions. Masha realized that she was simply being removed for the duration of the inspection. She knew too much about the school's financial machinations. Valentina Ivanovna. I refuse sick leave. I feel great. The director's face became hard. Maria Sergeyevna. I insist. Otherwise, I will have to raise the question of your professional suitability. A flooded office. Inattention to school property. It is not my fault. Prove it. But for now, the fact is obvious that an incident occurred under your supervision. Plus, your colleagues have been complaining about your unstable emotional state lately. Masha knew she was cornered. Either sick leave or dismissal, under the article on professional incompetence. And with such wording in the work record, it would be very difficult to get a new job. Okay, she said. I'll take sick leave. But only for a week. For 2 weeks. The investigation could drag on. In the evening, Masha told Mikhail about what had happened. They met in a small cafe, not far from his office. This is not an accident, he said immediately. You are being removed on purpose. This means you know something that could harm the director. I know. Masha admitted and told about the overheard conversations about the embezzlement of budget money. Mikhail listened to her attentively. Do you understand what you are describing? This is embezzlement of state funds on an especially large scale. A criminal offense. If it proves a real term, that is why they are removing me for the duration of the investigation. Not only that. Masha, have you ever thought that your family problems and problems at work could be connected? How is that? And who is the school principal's wife? Masha thought about it. Valentina Ivanovna was married. But no one had seen her husband. They said he worked for some large organization. I don't know. Is it important? Maybe. I'll check. The next day, Mikhail called back with unexpected information. Valentina Ivanovna was married to Sergei Kuznetsov. He is your husband's brother. It turns out your director is a sidekick. Masha caught her breath. That is. They are relatives. And Valentina Ivanovna knows about our problems. Not just knows. Most likely. She participates in them. Think for yourself. Who benefits from you losing your job before the divorce? An unemployed wife will receive less when dividing property. Plus, you become financially dependent, which eases the pressure on you. But this is a conspiracy. It was the family clan that decided to destroy you on all fronts. Take away your apartment. Fire you from work. Break you morally. Masha felt fury. Not just resentment or frustration, but fury. She was surrounded by enemies who pretended to be close to her and were now trying to trample her life. What to do? Fight. We have trump cards. Firstly, forged documents for the apartment are a criminal offense. Secondly, theft at school is also a criminal offense. Thirdly, abuse of office by the director for personal gain. But evidence. We will find evidence. The main thing is not to give up. That same evening, Masha received a call from the mother of one of her students. Elena Petrovna. Maxim's mother. Maria Sergeyevna. I'm sorry to bother you at home. Maxim said that you were sick. In a sense. Yes. I understand. You don't want to talk. But Maxim was very upset. He said that he saw some people with buckets coming to school yesterday evening. And that today, your office was flooded. The boy thought that this was connected. Masha's heart started beating faster. Elena Petrovna. What time was it? About 8 o'clock in the evening. Maxim was just returning from the football section. The school is on his way home. He says he saw a car near the service entrance, and people with some containers. But he didn't remember the car. I don't know. I'll ask. And what's important about it? Perhaps it is very important. Half an hour later, Elena Petrovna called Maxim back. He says he didn't remember the name. But the car was dark. An SUV. He also recognized one of the men. This is Uncle Kolya's plumber, who sometimes works at the school. Nikolai Semenovich. The school plumber was the director's man. He carried out all her orders without question. Elena Petrovna. And Maxim is not afraid to tell about it officially. If necessary? What happened? Maria Sergeyevna, you're scaring me. Masha hid. She didn't want to drag the child into this showdown. But a witness was really needed. Perhaps what happened was that your son became a witness to a crime. The next day, the inspection at the school began. Masha was formally on sick leave. But she decided to come and observe from afar. She got up early and arrived at the school by 8 a.m. There were several official cars parked near the entrance. People in formal suits with folders and notepads were getting out of them. There were apparently more inspectors than usual. Not only from the education department, but also from other regulatory agencies. Masha parked across the street and watched. The school was clearly nervous. She saw Valentina Ivanovna fussily meeting the commission. As Tamara Semyonovna called, quickly explaining something to one of the inspectors. Around 10:00 the morning, Mikhail approached her. She had informed him of her plans in advance. How are things? It's not clear yet. But there is a lot of activity. Masha. Yesterday, I filed a complaint with the prosecutor's office about the theft of budget funds at the school. To the police about forgery of documents for the apartment and fraud. The process has begun. And if they try to blame it all on me, they will say that I am cursing because of personal hostility. We have a witness to the attempt to stage the flooding of the office. Plus, you can't lie about documents. The examination will show everything. At that moment, one of the inspectors came out of the school and headed for the car. He was talking on the phone. And Masha heard fragments of a phrase. Yes. A sérieuse violation. The documents do not match. Another group will come tomorrow. Looks like they found something. Mikhail said quietly. Around noon, teachers began to leave the school. Masha recognized several colleagues. Everyone looked confused and worried. One of them, Irina Vladimirovna, a math teacher, noticed Masha and came up to the car. Maria Sergeyevna. What are you doing here? I think you're on sick leave. Yes. I was just passing by. What's going on? Horrible. What's going on? The inspectors found that the repairs were not done for the amount stated in the documents. Valentina Ivanovna is red as a lobster. Tamara Semyonovna is crying in the toilet. They say some more investigators will come tomorrow. Investigators? Yeah. From the prosecutor's office. Someone filed a report about embezzlement. Valentina Ivanovna suspects everyone who could snitch. She said straight out that she will find the traitor and destroy him. Masha and Mikhail exchanged glances. Irina Vladimirovna. Do you know if something is really wrong with the money? The teacher looked around. Made sure that no one was around. And leaned towards the car window. Maria Sergeyevna. Yes. Everyone knows. The repairs were meager. And the money went, who knows where. The baby food was also made from cheap products. But everyone was afraid to tell Valentina Ivanovna Mstidlnaya. It could ruin your life. And what will happen now? They say that if they prove theft, they will open a criminal case. And all those involved will be charged under the article. So now think about whether to continue to remain silent or tell the truth to the investigators. After lunch, the situation developed rapidly. Masha returned home, but constantly received messages from colleagues. Around 4 p.m. Irina Vladimirovna wrote to Valentina Ivanovna. They took her to the prosecutor's office for questioning. Tamara Semyonovna also did not. Panic at school. And at 5:30 Elena Petrovna, Maxim's mother Maria Sergeevna, called. The police came to our house and questioned Maxim about what he saw near the school. The boy told everything honestly. And they said that his testimony was very important for the case. How come Maxim wasn't scared? No. On the contrary. He is proud that he is helping justice, says his mother. And now our Maria Sergeyevna will return. And everything will be fine. Masha burst into tears. Children believed in justice more than adults. Mikhail called in the evening. I have news on all fronts. Firstly, the examination has finally confirmed the forgery of the apartment documents. Secondly, the prosecutor's office has opened a criminal case on the fact of theft of budget funds at the school. Thirdly, your husband and mother-in-law have been summoned for questioning tomorrow. Seriously, absolutely. Things are bad for this whole company. But for you. On the contrary, everything is going well. Mikhail. What if they try to take revenge somehow? To scare. To harm. It's too late. The process has started. It can't be stopped. And now you are under the protection of the law. as a witness and a victim at the same time. The next morning, Masha woke up from the ringing phone. My mother-in-law called. Lyudmila Petrovna's voice did not sound as confident as it had in court. Mashenka. We need to talk. About what? Please come. It's important. Lyudmila Petrovna. I don't think we have anything to talk about. Mashenka. I beg you. Maybe we had a fight for nothing. Maybe we can still settle things amicably. My mother-in-law's tone was pleading. Almost begging. Not at all the same as yesterday in court. What has changed? Lyudmila Petrovna. Well, some circumstances have arisen. The lawyers say that the case may take an unpleasant turn. And we are a family. After all, family. I remembered about family when it was hot. I'll think about it, said Masha, and hung up. An hour later, Dennis called. His voice was hoarse. Tired. Mash. Let's meet, and have a normal talk. What should we talk about? Dennis. About what we've done. I understand that I did the wrong thing. Maybe it's not too late to fix everything. Are you talking about betrayal or about trying to take away the apartment? About everything. Mash. I was a fool. Olga, that was stupidity. A moment of weakness. And about the apartment, Mom got carried away. She wanted the best. What's the best way to do this paperwork, Mash? But we can't talk about it over the phone. Let's meet. I don't see the point. Denis. The court will decide everything. After lunch, I received a message from Irina Vladimirovna. There are searches going on at the school. Documents are being confiscated. Valentina Ivanovna is under a written undertaking not to leave. And in the evening, Lyudmila Petrovna herself unexpectedly showed up. She arrived without calling. Stood at the door with tear-stained eyes. Mashenka. Can I come in? Masha hesitated. But curiosity got the better of her. She wanted to see how the woman who had so confidently declared her victory only yesterday would wriggle out of it. Lyudmila Petrovna walked into the living room and sat on the edge of the sofa. She looked haggard in her wrinkled clothes, without her usual makeup. Mashenka. I came to ask for forgiveness. For what exactly? For everything. For treating you badly. For supporting Dennis, in his stupidity. For this story with the apartment. Lyudmila Petrovna. What has changed? Yesterday, you were so sure you were right. The mother-in-law hung her head. I talked to a lawyer. He said it was a bad case. Forgery of documents is a criminal offense. I am facing a real prison term. And at my age with my illnesses. I understand. So while you thought you would win, I was a bad daughter-in-law who was destroying the family. And as soon as it became clear that things were bad, I became Mashenka, who needed to be asked for forgiveness. I understand how it looks. But I truly repent. I am scared. Mashenka. I've never been to the police. I don't know what awaits me. Lyudmila Petrovna began to cry. Masha looked at her and felt a strange mixture of pity and cold satisfaction. Here it is. Justice. Those who thought they could deceive and humiliate with impunity are now asking for mercy. Lyudmila Petrovna. If you had managed to take away the apartment, would you have repented? I don't know. Probably not. At least. Honestly. Then, what forgiveness are we talking about? You repent not of having done badly, but of having been caught. Mashenka. What do you want from me? What should I do? Nothing. The matter is no longer in your hands. The investigation will sort it out. But you can influence it. Say that you don't want punishment. That you agree to a settlement. I can't. Forgery of documents is not only against me. It is against the state. And the state does not ask my opinion. Punish the swindlers too. Lyudmila Petrovna stood up. So, you will not forgive. Lyudmila Petrovna. I am not a judge. It is not for me to decide whether to forgive or punish. There is a law. There is a court. They will sort it out. After her mother-in-law left, Masha sat by the window for a long time, thinking about what had happened. A month ago, her life seemed settled and clear. And now everything had turned upside down. But the strange thing is, despite all the shocks, she felt stronger than before. As if she had thrown off the burden that had been pressing on her for years, not allowing her to breathe deeply. The second court hearing on the divorce took place a week later. But now the atmosphere in the courtroom was completely different. Dennis sat pale and depressed. Next to him, the lawyer was nervously leafing through some folders. Ludmila Petrovna was not there. She was under house arrest in a criminal case on forgery of documents. When the judge declared the hearing open, Dennis's lawyer immediately stood up. Your Honor, my side is ready to agree to a settlement. We recognize the contract of gift of the apartment as invalid and agree to the division of property according to the shares of the invested funds. The judge looked at Masha Maria Sergeyevna. Do you agree to a settlement agreement? Masha stood up. The courtroom was quiet. Your Honor, I agree to a settlement agreement, provided that I am reimbursed for the full value of my investments in the apartment according to the bank documents, and also compensated for moral damages and expenses for conducting the case. Denis Kuznetsov. Do you agree with these conditions? Denis nodded slowly. He had no choice but to take the alternative. He had suffered a complete defeat in court. A criminal case for aiding and abetting fraud. An hour later, the settlement agreement was signed. Masha received 3/4 of the apartment's value. That was how much her investment amounted to, plus compensation in the amount of 50,000 rubles. As Dennis was leaving the courthouse, he caught up with her at the car. Masha. Wait. She turned around. Her ex-husband looked several years older. I wanted to say, forgive me. I was a complete idiot. Denis. An apology won't change anything. I understand. But I still don't need Olga. I realized this when I almost lost everything. Maybe not. Denis. There's no turning back. What if I hadn't gotten involved with Orbe? If Mom hadn't gotten out of that apartment? Masha thought about it. A good question. Indeed. And what if you know? Denis. I think it would have happened sooner or later anyway. It's just that the reason would have been different. We are two different people. How are we different? Do you think the end justifies the means? And I think the means should be honest. Otherwise, any end becomes dirty. Dennis lowered his head and walked slowly to his car. Mikhail was waiting for Masha in a cafe not far from the court. Seeing her happy face, he smiled. Judging by her expression, everything went well. Better than I expected. I'll get almost everything I invested. Plus compensation. Excellent. And how are things at school? Valentina Ivanovna was suspended from her position. A criminal case has been opened. The head teachers have also been removed. The school is currently temporarily headed by a deputy from the education department. And when are you going back to work? Next week. My sick leave is ending. Mikhail was silent for a moment. Then said Masha. What is my proposal to you? A purely work proposal. He was slightly embarrassed. I have a friend who is opening a private school and is looking for good teachers. The salary is twice as much as in a regular school. Plus a social package. Don't you want to try? Why are you offering me this? Because after everything that happened, it will be difficult for you to work in your previous school. Everyone knows that it was you who snitched on the principal. They will look askance. Masha realized that he was right. Even if no one said anything officially, the atmosphere in the team would be difficult. And what kind of school is this? Small. Up to 100 students. Authors programs, an individual approach. The founder is a businessman who wants to give children a quality education. Everything is honest. Without fraud. Sounds interesting. And will I have to go through an interview? Formally? Yes. But I already told the principal about you. She was interested. They agreed that Masha would meet the principal of the private school in a few days. When she returned home, Masha discovered that someone had tried to pick the lock on her door. The lock held, but the scratches on the metal were fresh. She called a locksmith, changed the lock to a more reliable one, and then thought for a long time about who it could be. The answer came the next day. Her neighbor Anna Mikhailovna. Maria Sergeyevna. Called. Some people came to see you yesterday. I saw a man and a woman through the peephole. They were standing by the door for a long time, doing something, and when I asked who they were, they said they were from the management company. And what time was it? Around 7:00 p.m. Just when you left for court. It turns out that while Masha was in court, Someone tried to break into her apartment. Most likely. They were looking for some documents, or wanted to plant something. She called Mikhail and told him what happened. This is the last convolution, he said. They understand that they have lost. And are trying to at least do some harm. But be careful. People who are cornered are capable of many things. The next day, Masha went to her school to pick up her things from her office. The repairs after the flooding were finished. The office looked even better than before. In the hallway, she met several colleagues. The reactions were varied. Irina Vladimirovna came up and warmly thanked Maria Sergeyevna. Thank you. If it weren't for your statement, this thief would have continued to rob the school. But Ludmila Anatolyevna, who was supposed to replace her, demonstratively turned away. Apparently, not everyone approved of Masha taking the fight out in public. The temporary director, Vera Nikolaevna, was a woman of about 50. Strict but fair. She invited Masha into her office. Maria Sergeyevna, first of all, I want to say that you did the right thing. Theft of budget funds is unacceptable. Secondly, I would like to offer you the position of head teacher. We need honest, principled people. The offer was lumbering. But Masha had almost decided to transfer to a private school. Vera Nikolaevna, I am very grateful for your trust. But I have other plans. I understand. After everything that happened, it will not be easy to work here. I wish you good luck in your new position. While packing her things in the office, Masha heard voices in the hallway. Maxim Petrov was talking to his classmates. And you know that our Maria Sergeyevna is a real hero. She exposed thieves and swindlers. Maxim. How do you know? Mom told me. And I also saw them flooding her office. I am a witness. The boy's voice sounded proud. Masha smiled. It's good that at least the children understand where the truth is and where the lie is. The meeting with the director of the private school went wonderfully. Elena Alexandrovna turned out to be an energetic woman of about 40. Who was really passionate about the idea of quality education. Maria Sergeyevna. We have small classes. A maximum of 15 people. The opportunity to work using original methods. Salary 40,000. Plus bonus for student results. Social package. Paid advanced training courses. And what are the requirements for teachers? Honesty. Professionalism. Love for children. No extortion from parents. No fake reports. Everything is transparent and according to the law. Elena Alexandrovna. How do you know about my situation? Mikhail Volkov said. We have known each other for a long time. He handles the school's legal affairs. He said that you are exactly the person we need. Principled and courageous. Masha agreed to the offer. The new job began in a month. There was just enough time to complete all the paperwork and rest after the stress. A week later, the trial of the criminal case Lyudmila Petrovna took place. Masha was present as a victim. The mother-in-law looked very bad. Having lost weight in a black dress with trembling hands, her lawyer asked for a suspended sentence. Citing the defendant's age and remorse, Lyudmila Petrovna really repented. Cried. Asked for forgiveness. Said that she had succumbed to her son's bad influence. The prosecutor demanded a real term, pointing out that the crime was committed as part of a group and caused significant material damage. The judge sentenced Lyudmila Petrovna to 2 years. Suspended with a probationary period of 3 years. Denis received the same sentence. Valentina Ivanovna, as the organizer of the theft at the school, received a 3-year real term. Leaving the courtroom, Lyudmila Petrovna approached Masha Mashenko. Thank you for not demanding the harshest punishment. Lyudmila Petrovna. I did not demand anything at all. The court decided. Anyway. Thank you. And forgive me if you can. Masha looked at the broken woman who had so confidently declared her victory not long ago. Lyudmila Petrovna. I am not angry with you. I even feel sorry for you. But the lesson must be learned. You can't build your happiness on deception. That same day, Mikhail invited Masha to dinner at a good restaurant. Let's celebrate the victory of justice, he said, raising a glass of champagne. Mikhail, why did you help me like that? Honestly. He was silent for a moment. then answered, "At first, I just don't like injustice. And then I realized that I fell in love with you." Masha wasn't surprised. She herself felt that something more than just a business relationship had arisen between them. "And I thought that after Dennis I wouldn't be able to trust anyone. And now I think that all people are different. There are those who betray. And there are those who support. Masha, I will not rush things. But I want you to know that I take our relationship seriously. Mikhail, let's not plan anything yet. We will just meet and see what happens." Agreed. A month later, Masha started working at a private school. The new team greeted her warmly. The children were well-mannered and motivated. And the salary was indeed twice as much as before. Valentin Sergeyevich, the founder of the school, turned out to be a pleasant man who really wanted to create a model educational institution. "Maria Sergeyevna," he said at the first general meeting of the team, "our goal is not to make a profit at any cost, but to educate worthy citizens. Therefore, there will be no place for corruption, extortion and deception." Masha thought how good it is that there are people who understand true values. Relations with Mikhail developed slowly but surely. They met 2 or 3 times a week, went to the theater, cinema, and simply walked around the city. He did not rush things, giving her time to fully recover from the stress she had experienced. One evening, 3 months after all the legal proceedings had ended, Mikhail said, "Masha, I bought an apartment. I want you to look at it." "Why?" "Because I want to ask you to marry me. But first, see if the house we could live in would suit you." The apartment turned out to be a spacious 3-room apartment in a good area, with large windows and a cozy layout. "Beautiful," said Masha. "And why exactly this?" "Because there is an office here, where you could prepare for lessons. And a large kitchen. I know that you like to cook. And there is a good school nearby in case we have children." Masha turned to him. "Mikhail, this is an offer. This is an offer." He took out a small box with a ring. "Marry me." "Masha, I promise to be an honest husband and a reliable life partner." She looked at the ring, then at him. "And if I say yes, it won't mean I've agreed to be a housewife. I want to keep working. Of course, I've fallen in love with a strong, independent woman. Why should I break it then?" "Yes." Masha smiled. "I'm marrying you." The wedding was modest but warm. There were few guests, Masha's colleagues from the new school, Mikhail's friends, several students with their parents. Maxim Petrov carried the rings. Masha specifically asked him to do so. "Maria Sergeyevna," the boy said solemnly, "now you will be happy forever." "I'll try." "Maxim. And the uncle and aunt who were bad won't bother you anymore." "They won't." A year later, Masha and Mikhail had a daughter, Anechka. And a year later, Masha became the director of a private school. Elena Alexandrovna decided to take on other projects and offered her this post. Sometimes Masha met people from her past life on the street. "I saw Dennis once. He worked as a manager in a car dealership. He looked tired and aged." They greeted each other politely, but coldly. Ludmila Petrovna called on his birthday and congratulated him on the holidays. The relationship gradually improved. Not close, but civilized. The mother-in-law sincerely repented of what she had done and tried to atone for her guilt by being kind to her granddaughter. Valentina Ivanovna left for another city after her release. They said she worked as a shop assistant. And Masha built a new life. Honest, open, full of love and meaning. Her school became one of the best in the city. Her husband was a reliable support. The daughter grew up in an atmosphere of warmth and justice. In the evenings, when Anechka fell asleep and Mikhail read in the next room, Masha sometimes remembered the day when a stranger called her and told her about her husband's betrayal. Then it seemed to her that her life had collapsed. But it turned out that life was just beginning. Justice triumphed. Love defeated deception. And honesty turned out to be not a weakness, but a strength. And it was the most important victory in her life. Thank you for listening to the end. If you found the story interesting, subscribe to the channel and like it so you don't miss new videos.